Brandon Johnson won't do what's right. According to the Inspector General, Deborah Witzberg's unannounced inspections of the city premises. November 4th, 2025, Section 2-56-090 of the Municipal Code of Chicago, MCC, provides that each department's premises, equipment, personnel, books, records, and paper shall be made available as soon as practicable to the Inspector General. Unannounced inspections are an important tool in oversight work, allowing for unmanipulated assessment of practices, behaviors, and conditions. On 2 occasions over the past year, however, Office of Inspector General, OIG, investigators have been denied access to city premises for the purpose of conducting an unannounced inspection. The first was an unannounced inspection of the mayor's so-called gift room, as described in OIG's January 2025 advisory on gifts accepted on behalf of the city. Following the publication of that advisory, the mayor's office published a 21-second video of the gift room to the mayor's YouTube page. The mayor's office announced new rules concerning gifts accepted by the mayor on behalf of the city, and that the gift room would be open to members of the press and the public. City records reveal, however, that the gift room depicted in the mayor's office's video, and which is open for public inspection, was in fact not constructed until February 2025, after OIG attempted to conduct an unannounced inspection of gifts received by the mayor's office. Because OIG was denied access to a city premise during its original inspection attempt, OIG was unable to independently confirm whether and where city property, including cufflinks, designer handbags, and men's shoes, was being stored prior to the construction of the new gift room. The second thwarted unannounced inspection attempt occurred in July 2025. OIG attempted to inspect a city office to search for items which OIG believed were being stored there in violation of city policy. An attorney with the city's Department of Law, DOL, instructed a city employee using that office to not admit OIG during OIG's initial visit. Several weeks later, OIG inspected the office with DOL present and confirmed the presence of those items in the office, underscoring the necessity and appropriateness of the inspection. However, obstruction of OIG's attempt to conduct an unannounced inspection precluded the immediate gathering of complete and reliable evidence of then current conditions bearing directly upon the alleged violation of city policy. Advisory concerning unannounced inspections of city premises, page 1, City of Chicago Office of Inspector General, OIG advised the mayor in this advisory that the MCC provides that each department's premises must be made available to OIG as soon as practicable. OIG's legal authority to access city premises is therefore not unqualified, but it does not permit outright denial of access without any showing of impracticability. In both of the instances discussed here, however, city premises being made available to OIG as soon as practicable should have resulted in physical access to those premises on the occasion of OIG's initial visit, without obstruction, interruption, or delay. In both cases, OIG sought to conduct the search during business hours, and while persons who would normally have access to the area to be inspected were present. On its face, as soon as practicable does not mean with advance notice to a city department occupying city premises, with advance notice to DOL, or only with a DOL attorney present. OIG's authority to access city premises is plainly not made contingent on any of those conditions, or, in fact, to any conditions other than practicability. In its advisory, attached at Appendix A, OIG recommended that the mayor take appropriate steps to ensure that city premises are made available to OIG as required by law, and to ensure the transparency and accountability of city government, including without limitation issuing guidance to city departments to clarify OIG's legal authority to access city premises. OIG invited the mayor's office to respond in writing. On October 31st, 2025, the mayor's office responded, apparently declining to implement OIG's recommendation. Regarding OIG's July 2025 attempt to inspect a city office for the presence of prohibited items, the mayor's office responded that OIG cannot reasonably deny that it was granted access to the office as soon as practicable. The mayor's office suggested that certain exercises of OIG's authority to access city premises might be ones in which DOL's involvement is warranted under other provisions of the MCC or the OIG rules. The only provision cited in apparent support of that position, though, is one in OIG's rules which allows witnesses and subjects in OIG investigations to bring counsel to interviews. See OIG Rules and Regulations Section 11.7e. That provision does not entitle a city employee to the presence of DOL while OIG conducts non-testimonial investigative steps. There is no more an entitlement to have DOL present during a premise inspection than during a covert surveillance. With respect to the gift room, the mayor's office response describes what it calls evolving interpretations of the city's governmental ethics ordinance and states that relocating of the gift room was not a covert undertaking, but rather was done in full transparency.
The city official in charge of some of Chicago's biggest festivals abruptly resigned. That same official we've been asking questions about for months.
NBC5 Investigates requested documents related to Clene Hedspeth, the former commissioner of the Cultural Affairs and Special Events known as D-Case. And we uncovered allegations of discrimination, harassment, and more. Our political reporter, Mary Ahern, joining us in studio now to break down what happened. Marianne?
Allison and Stefan, Clene Hedspeth is a year and a half as the head of D-Case was marked by turmoil. Back in April, we reported on the letter of concern from more than 100 artists. They were worried about her leadership. We now know in September, HR found Hedspeth violated city policy. She resigned less than 2 weeks later. The Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, called D-Case, puts on Taste of Chicago, Blues Festival, and so many other big Chicago events. In March 2024, Mayor Brandon Johnson tapped his longtime friend, Clene Hedspeth, to lead it. She left less than 2 years later and is now on the city's do not hire list. During her tenure, 29 employees left the department, including 7 deputy commissioners. Through an open records request, NBC5 Investigates learned HR began investigating in February. A former employee complained Hedspeth made, quote, humiliating and demoralizing comments about their culture. As D-Case prepped for city council budget hearings last year, Hedspeth asked the employee to wear, quote, traditional cultural clothes in council chambers and, quote, put on a thick accent so it's hard to understand you. Hedspeth later told HR those comments were a joke. Though the documents are heavily redacted, HR found she engaged in age-based harassment, telling an employee not to have gray hair when going to the 5th floor of City Hall, where the mayor's office is. Other claims include making comments about an employee's sexual orientation and disregarding their pronouns. HR investigated the claims and found that as a result, she violated the Equal Employment Opportunity Policy. When asked about comments Hedspeth made about her sex life, as well as asking about an employee's sexual preferences and whether they would have an affair with a married person, Hedspeth told HR the conversation happened prior to this person working for the city and called them a, quote, disgruntled employee. HR interviewed Hedspeth twice during its investigation, both times with a lawyer present. Hedspeth left the second interview and said she would not return to answer more questions. Investigators say they did not get to ask her about allegations of disability harassment and retaliation. Mayor Johnson's spokesperson tells us Hedspeth resigned before she could be fired, and their office followed HR's recommendations, including placing her on the do not hire list. Meanwhile, Hedspeth's spokesperson says in part there are inaccuracies and omissions in the report, and she's confident the facts will come to light through a legal process. In her resignation letter, Hedspeth said she planned to return to the private sector and lead a foundation. Stefan?
Okay, Marianne Ahern, thank you so much.
Do you agree with Governor Pritzker that you want federal law enforcement to work with local law enforcement to get rid of criminal illegal aliens?
Let me begin by answering that question with telling you I don't believe anyone is an illegal alien. That's a terrible term to use about anyone.
It's a legal term.
It's not a legal term. They used to call black people slaves legally, and it was wrong. Let's stop dehumanizing people. Let's start treating people right. Language matters. Let's treat people with respect and humanity. And I agree with Governor Pritzker that we should fight like hell to protect people's constitutional rights and their due process rights.
Illegal aliens. I don't know if that's from some sort of sci-fi message that you wish you had. Well, listen, the legal term for my people were slaves. You want me to use that term too? So look, let's just get the language right. We're talking about undocumented individuals that are human beings. The last thing that I'm going to do is accept the type of racist, nasty language to describe human beings.
An illegal alien who is a suspected member of a violent foreign gang who was brought into custody for his potential involvement in a murder. He was released when Cook County declined to press charges. This illegal alien is also facing charges for kidnapping and sexually assaulting his former girlfriend last year. Now he's on the streets. Mayor Johnson, under Chicago law, would you turn this criminal over to ICE on a detainer?
Our local law enforcement works hard every day to get criminals off the streets of Chicago.
Would you turn that criminal over to ICE? That's the problem. That's one of the topics of this conversation. That's one of the problems we've heard from Tom Hammond and from the Homeland Security is that in your cities, when someone's apprehended for a crime, and ICE is now, with this new federal policy, wanting to come in and deport the criminal alien, that you will not cooperate with ICE. Will you turn that criminal over to ICE?
And we do not harbor criminals. Our local police department works hard every single day to ensure that the city of Chicago is
Yes
safe.
or no? Will you turn the criminal over to ICE?
With a criminal warrant from the federal government, our local law enforcement repeatedly collaborates with federal agents.
So you're saying publicly today, you will turn that alien over to ICE in a safe place like a jail and not turn him out on the street and say, here you go, ICE, good luck.